Welcome to another episode of All Hands on Tech. I'm your host, Claire Kirian. Before we dive in, if you haven't already nominated someone for our 2025 Tech Forward Awards, hit pause and visit our website to nominate a person or organization now. Today, we're heading under the sea to explore the future of ocean innovation, AI, and data-driven sustainability. Joining me are two incredible guests from DeepSense, an organization based out of the Faculty of Computer Science at Dalhousie University, whose mission is to help grow the marine economy with AI and machine learning. We're thrilled to welcome Dr. Chris Whiddon, the DeepSense Cove Digital Ocean Research Chair, and Ian Archibald, Executive Director of DeepSense. We're excited to chat about how ocean technologies and data innovations are helping businesses in our community. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for being here. And we have two guests today. It's exciting. It feels like a party. And with any good party, we like to start with icebreakers, of course.
Sure.
To set the tone. So I'm going to ask you some very important questions. First being, what is your go-to water destination in Nova Scotia? Favorite beach, whatever, hidden gem?
For me, it's Lawrencetown. I love to surf, and that bluff up on Lawrencetown, sort of a happy place. Just beautiful sitting up there and being able to look out over the ocean and sometimes sit up there, wait for swells to arrive.
Do you surf in the winter?
Yeah.
I would say that's a real surfer. I don't surf at all, so I can't judge, but that to me is hardcore.
It's painful sometimes.
You do that for fun?
Strangely, yeah.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, how about you, Chris?
Yeah, for me, it's Crystal Crescent Beach, just going with the family, enjoying the waves and the sand and the surf.
That's a beautiful beach.
Yeah, amazing.
I like that one. Yeah, awesome. I like to go to Rainbow Haven just because it's the most shallow, and I'm a huge baby when it comes to water temperature, so it's my best shot.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, what's a mythical oceanic species you wish were true?
A mermaid, merwomen. I don't know what the proper, or mermen. I don't know what the
Merperson?
proper, merperson. But yeah, just the idea of, it's such a cool environment under the water, and to be able to live in that, and, that sort of whole Aquaman thing was so cool.
That is cool. I like that.
Yeah, and for me, it's always been stories of dragons or sea serpents, just the idea that there's something hidden under there that no one's seen before, and the ocean's so vast and it's unexplored, so yeah.
I think it's a funny question because there's probably anything you can imagine might actually exist under there.
Yeah.
So much left to be found.
Or something way weirder actually exists under there.
They do weird well under there.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
All right. And the last question is, do you prefer a big city trip or more of an off-the-grid vacation?
Definitely off the grid, preferably along the coastline somewhere warm and interesting.
Yeah, probably somewhere in the middle for me, not totally off the grid, but not necessarily a huge city, so smaller destination or something off the beaten path.
Nice. I love it. Some resources.
Yeah.
I understand that. I just did backcountry camping in Keji, and
Oh, okay.
once in a while, you appreciate some resources once you don't have them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But,
Perspective builder.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. So let's hop into things. I want to start with the big picture. So for those who aren't familiar with DeepSense, how did this organization get its start? How did it come to life?
Yeah, so DeepSense was really started in 2018. It was a brainchild of several people in the Faculty of Computer Science at Dal, Megalos Milios, Andrew Rao Chaplin, and others came together. It was seen that there was a need to bring AI and digital tech into the ocean sector. And so it was a joining of IBM, who provided the hardware and a lot of resources. It was a product of Cove, the Center for Ocean Ventures Entrepreneurship in Dartmouth, to really bring the ocean tech side and ensuring that there would be the SMEs and other organizations involved, and funding from ACOA and others just to really bring this group together. And so the original idea was that there would just be a whole stream of projects coming directly in, provide the talent, and things would just mesh. That was not how it went. So a lot of it was a bit of a pivot at the beginning to seeing, how can we contribute to the ocean sector? How do we provide data readiness and AI readiness, helping people just get their data stacks and tech stacks up there so they can then apply those into AI. Then COVID hit, blew up all of our plans. So we pivoted even more into that sort of smaller projects and readiness. And then over the years, we had a few flagship projects that we'll talk a bit more, some of your later questions. And then that led into where we are with the organization today. Ian, you want to say where we are now?
Yeah. And just important that, innovation isn't always technology. Oftentimes it's sort of different ways of doing things. And a lot of the pain that Chris just mentioned, and Jennifer LaPlante was the founding executive director, and she deserves a lot of credit as well.
Oh, yes.
And really through sort of the shifting environment and the objectives of the organization, how they've actually sort of realized. There's been a long path there of sort of navigating between government, academia, and industry to develop a model that's really effective at delivering AI into industry, essentially. In many ways, I think the big innovation is that it's able to deliver the expertise of academia and the talent of the students in university at the speed of industry. So these sort of smaller projects that we do, as Chris mentioned, are really kind of AI building blocks that we can put into organizations or projects to add AI to whatever they're doing. So we really do 4 things right now. The first is introducing our student body to the marine sector as a viable career path or sector to target. The second is we support a lot of other organizations with AI expertise, sort of do work with Digital Nova Scotia, the Marine Institute out in Newfoundland, all kinds of different organizations. We do clearly defined projects for industry, so we'll do like AI readiness, helping them get themselves set up to use AI. We'll do machine learning projects, sort of training models, oftentimes on their proprietary data, so they get a proprietary model out of it. We've started doing AI audits of going into advanced AI organizations and doing an assessment of their model stack and sort of information or data flows. And then we've started to get into generative AI projects as well. So sort of developing RAG systems, which are essentially like truth systems for LLMs or generative AI, and even training small models. And then lastly, we work with startups to help them define their AI-based propositions and oftentimes develop the core technologies for their first offering. So that's kind of what we do now. And
very cool. Have you noticed it? Well, so you said it started in 2018. Obviously, there's been a lot of change in kind of what you've been working on, what your focuses are, but in the last couple years, maybe 2-3 years, there's obviously been a huge AI boom, and people are using it who weren't previously in that space. So has that really impacted a lot of what you do? Is like kind of adapting to the speed of the market?
Yeah, really the biggest difference is that people are more aware of what AI can do. So in the beginning, we had to really tell them, here's what we can do for AI. And there was always that mix of people not knowing what it could do versus people thinking it could do everything. And of course, the truth is somewhere in the middle. Right. Now there's a lot more understanding of what it can do. And we're finding that a lot of organizations are coming to us with more realistic, specific problems to solve.
Nice.
But they still need that help with understanding how do they structure their data to be able to make use of it, or what is the extra work involved after you complete an AI project? Because it's not just you create this AI algorithm and train something and then you're done. You need to maintain that data. You need to check that it's still working. You need to have someone in the loop who is verifying results, especially if there's any sort of safety concerns or other issues that need to be done. And so that really now it's teaching how do we use this going forward for the long term as opposed to as a one-off.
Interesting.
Yeah, generative AI has really sort of made our lives a lot easier with how sort of prevalent it is. And it's, we do mostly machine learning projects, actually, which is an older type of AI, over a decade old now, or even older. But generative AI is really bringing it to the forefront, and people are really aware. It's a lot easier running DeepSense now, I think, than it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, when there was a lot less awareness of the power and importance of these technologies.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool. You both have very interesting roles at DeepSense. Can you tell me a little bit more about each of your roles and what you do for the organization?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Chris Whitten. I'm the DeepSense Cove Digital Ocean Research Chair and Assistant Professor in the Faculty of Computer Science at Dell. And so my role is really to be the academic lead, identify what are some of the new advanced AI techniques that we could potentially use, help find talent, help connect other professors and researchers at Dalhousie and across Atlantic Canada, and bring them into our projects. And so it's really that bringing the forefront of academic AI kind of research into the organization.
And solves the really hard problems. Like there's a lot of times where we're like, hey, Chris, yeah, so I'm the executive director, so more run the operations side of things. A lot of my job is going out into industry and developing those partnerships, working with our established partners, funding, HR, sort of the day-to-day operations of the organization.
Nice. The two, like business side and academia side. I love organizations like DeepSense that bridge the gap between academia, government, and industry, because they can all benefit each other so much, but sometimes it's hard. They move at different paces. They have different regulations, so sometimes, there's just missed opportunities, but it's great to have organizations that can bring it all together.
We're trying.
You're doing a great job. So one of your key pillars is student engagement, obviously. How do students get involved with DeepSense? What kind of impact has this had on students in their early careers?
Yeah, so there's several different ways students get involved with DeepSense. One is we host a lot of events. So we host buses where people will go and visit various different organizations in the ocean sphere to see what different jobs could be in that space. We speak a lot at events like this or going to conferences and talking to folks. We have something we call our student pool where students can sign up, and then that is how they can be recruited as interns in our projects. We tend to have several hundred students who have signed up for this in any given term. We work on sort of a student term basis to set these up. And then otherwise, it's just meeting folks, talking to them, talking to other professors to say, who are your best students with various different backgrounds, like in acoustics or in computer vision or other aspects that could be helpful for various different kinds of projects. We also talk a lot, so the focus is on AI, but also in other aspects, so things like human-computer interaction, oceanography, engineering, whatever's needed to solve a given problem or work on a given project.
Yeah, like the students at the heart of our projects, basically they're 4-month internships, and the students are coached throughout the duration by our staff, actively managed. We have professional development work that the students go through, and in a perfect situation, at about 20% of cases, we might actually be higher now. The businesses that have our user students in the projects hire them after they graduate. So it's not just sort of the upfront work that we do that Chris was talking about skills development and exposure. They actually get an amazing experience where they're hands-on delivering AI into these organizations. Right. And hopefully the student gets hired after, and then they can continue their work with the organization. And it's not just about one-off projects then, it's really about embedding the talent into these organizations so they can continue adopting AI and benefiting from it.
Which is just as impactful for the organizations.
Oh, long-term probably more so, yeah. It's win-win-win, right? Yeah. Like the students get a great career, the organization gets talent, that's really deploying cutting-edge techniques, and yeah.
Are there a variety of roles that the students can take on, like highly technical roles, project management roles? Like, do they apply for a certain type of role, or how does that part work?
So it's really built through that student pool where they can sign up and say, here is their expertise in different areas, and then when there is an opportunity, then we contact them. For the most part, it is AI focused for the sort of internship stream, but also a lot of our staff at DeepSense are themselves students or were students. So looking for project managers, AI leads, cloud engineers, several of those have come from student programs.
Yeah, we're quite technical right now. Right. We mostly pull from the Masters of Applied Computer Science at Dalhousie, but we've got people doing projects, students being overseen by professors at MUN and St. Mary's right now. And We've got, I think, one from our Masters of Digital Innovation program, and then we do pull in NSCC students, undergrad students. That's mostly, if it's an AI readiness where there's a lot of data labeling and things like that to be done. In the future, we might get into like agentic systems or things like that that are a little bit more business focused and less technical. And so it's a really broad swath, but the beauty of having this great pool of students is we get to match the student with the project. So if you've got sort of like an acoustics-based project, one that uses acoustics data, we can look for a student who's played with that or worked with that data before, or maybe they've got a musical background so they understand the nature of acoustics and would have some insight there. So a lot of the strength in what we do is this great pool of students and matching them with a project to fit the type of data and the level of technical expertise that they need.
That's awesome. That's huge value. It's not just like open application, you're actually, it's like job placements in a way, handpicking them. Very cool. I didn't know that part about DeepSense. I love it. Okay, so from aquaculture to vessel optimization, the range of projects that you guys do is quite vast. Is there a recent project that really stands out that you want to talk about?
Oh, of course. There's so many, but I'm going to focus on one of our flagship projects with Ingenuity. So they're a company that produces fish tracking tags, works in the aquaculture business, and actually with our help, they developed a new business model. So, why do people care about tracking fish? Well, it's to see where are they going, if salmon are going out into the ocean, when are they coming back, into which rivers and in what quantities, looking at patterns of movement and things in aquaculture facilities. The trouble with that is that if something is at risk or endangered, then you can't really implant a tag, or you have to do a lot of waivers, and it's rare that you're allowed to do so. And so we worked with Ingenuity to develop AI tracking systems with cameras and acoustics that can count and classify the species of fish as they're going through rivers and other kinds of waters. This started as a very academic project, trying out different AI models on a very basic, simple data set. And then over a couple of years, it progressed into a set of 3 different interns that were all hired by Ingenuity, and they formed their own AI group here in Bedford, which is also the place they manufacture their fish tracking tags. And now there's deployments in several rivers in Nova Scotia that are counting all the fish going by Nova Scotia Power tidal facilities in real time with 95% accuracy. So counting thousands of fish in the busy summer season and seeing patterns day and night. In the past, they would have a poor student who would be watching a viewing pane or a camera and counting these during the day and just a few times during the year. And now they have a full picture of what's happening in those rivers all throughout the year.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's pretty cool. That's very cool.
Yeah, and the big thing, as I said, is that they hired some of our students and staffed a machine learning division here in Nova Scotia.
Yeah. Mine isn't quite as technically fancy, but we do a lot of machine vision projects. And one of my favorite was working with a startup out west called OceanAid. And we helped them develop a system that can identify debris in coastal environments from drone footage. So I've been involved in coastal issues for over 25 years, dozens of beach cleanups and stuff. And the system's able to identify styrofoam or an old shoe or cans on a coastal environment to help with beach cleanups. And one of their first clients was actually a First Nation out west that hired them to do an audit of their coastal environment. They had so much debris come over from the Japanese tsunami. And, really a chance to see where that debris and ghost gear is and then go clean it up. So that was one of my favorite, personally.
Very cool. Also cool, but also crazy to think that it traveled that far.
Oh, yeah. They had motorcycles wash up and stuff. Like just the craziest stuff that you wouldn't think made it all the way across the Pacific.
That's nuts. Very cool projects. Thank you. Looking into the future, where do you see some more opportunities coming up?
Oh, there's so many opportunities. As we were talking briefly before, generative AI and AI agents are really going to open up a lot of opportunities. Right now, a lot of our projects are very purpose-driven. We have a specific, here is some business need, here is something that people are spending a lot of time and hours of effort doing manually, and then we painstakingly automate that, and then typically leave a human in the loop in some way. So it's more of a force multiplier. We're not trying to take away jobs. What we get with generative AI and agentic AI is we can do that to a much wider range of problems at scale. As you heard, a lot of our problems are more vision or acoustic right now, but in the future we can automate, filling out forms or doing a lot of clicking and so on. That is really hard to work with right now with AI systems.
Yeah, I'm really excited about how generative AI is going to be applied in two ways. One is robotics. One of the biggest holdbacks for robotics over the past decade or so or longer has been their brains, how they're able to navigate environments, how they're able to accomplish whatever tasks they're setting out to do. And generative AI gives the ability to reason through problems, to set up environments and test scenarios. So you can set up a virtual environment and test thousands of scenarios so that when it's out there in the ocean, communicating with anything under the water is really hard. And having these systems be more autonomous and being able to complete their tasks is amazing. Another way is really being eyes. We can go down, put cameras, and collect huge amounts of footage, but somebody's got to watch that footage. There's sort of a direct relationship between time and value, but these systems are increasingly being able to identify things and sort of know what is seen on the screen and communicate that. So the ability to potentially find species that we have no idea exist, or much like the fish tracking that Chris was talking about, being able to do that at scale in the ocean to really understand what's out there and how many and what their behaviors are. There's so many opportunities to learn so much more about the oceans. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, right. A lot of on-device processing and intelligence and information gathering that you can't really send over a tiny signal channel.
Yeah. So there's huge opportunities in the ocean space because it is so vast, because there's so much unknown, and because it's such a foreign environment to us. I think generative AI and in particular is going to really open it up for us on a number of levels.
Very cool. So all these projects you don't do in a silo. You work with a lot of partners. Can you tell me a little bit about your project partners and how these partnerships have evolved over the years?
Yeah, of course. So we briefly name drop some of those at the founding of DeepSense. So we work a lot with Cove. Many of our projects come through different Cove clients or introduced us by Cove. We have a couple of larger flagship projects with Cove, like one right now on developing systems that can analyze marine protected areas and then see what's happening with whales and ship traffic and vegetation growth and so on in partnership with Cove. And so through the years, a lot of opportunities and also working directly with them. We are headquartered at the Pier, and so similarly, we get a lot of, we work, I think, almost everyone now of the companies that are at the Pier, or they introduce two other folks to work with. And then so both of those groups as well host a lot of events that are great ways for us to meet others or to engage with. I forgot to mention, we also worked a lot originally with the Ocean Frontier Institute. I did a lot of research projects with them as faculty at Dell. And so, we're, again, introduced to lots of different companies, lots of opportunities through to each of those different project partners. And so, really, a lot of our work is because we work with such great partners who meet the folks that we don't easily meet as by ourselves through those events that we host, really providing that opportunity and those connections that we need.
Yeah, and I think Innovacy on the industry side is just a great example of somebody that we've been working with for years. Another product that we help develop with them is assessing oxygen levels or predicting oxygen levels in aquaculture pens in advance. And I think that was a really good example of how we can do skunkworks and really sort of enable an organization where they're like, hey, we've got this data. we think maybe we could figure out oxygen levels in advance, but we're busy here on our core products and the time, energy, effort to explore this. I don't know if we can really do it, and that's real applied research where they're like, we have this data, we have a problem, fish die-offs. You think you could figure something out? So we took that data, ran it through a half dozen different models, sort of played with it a bit, and got it where it can predict oxygen levels 48 hours in advance in aquaculture pens. What happens is you get all kinds of fish poop and extra food, and then it adds all this nitrogen to the water. Right. You get algae blooms, they suck all the oxygen out, and you get big fish die-offs. So big problem for aquaculture. Yeah. So, we did the applied research project, got it pretty good, handed it back. They took it back in-house, got the models to 72 hours in advance, and then built a whole sort of UI around it. So they productized what we did, and now they're actively selling it in market. So, there's so many different types of relationships that we have with industry. And I think that's one that I really love because it's been long-standing. They've hired our students to build their own internal capacity, and we just really love working with them. They're a great company.
Very cool. Did you do anything with obviously there's a marine biology degree, department at Dalhousie. Do you do a lot of work with them, or is that kind of a separate?
So that kind of comes, again, through my role as a touch point between academia and DeepSense. Okay. So again, for the most part, we do specific AI with AI students, but I do work closely with folks in other programs at Dal. There was actually another project with Nova Scotia separate from DeepSense in the Marine Affairs program that I joined in a bit later into that project. So I was focusing more on things like fish disease, sea lice, and so on. So we were kind of more beside a lot of those initiatives in the ocean sector, really just trying to see what is the best fit or what is the best type of students to solve a given problem.
Right. Okay. So some of your students might come from the marine biology.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Nice. I was wondering how that crossover worked. Okay. So AI in ocean tech is relatively new. What are some ethical considerations that you have to keep in mind when developing some of these products?
Oh, there's so many concerns just to be really careful of. So as we've kind of alluded to, for the most part, we look at problems that are good for everyone in some way. So we're looking at some sort of a business need, something that is typically manual and takes a lot of time, effort, and or money, and then look at automating that in some way where there's still going to be someone who it is their job, their role to do that work. So as a sort of a force multiplier. And so if we structure a project in that way, then most of the ethical concerns aren't too much of an issue. It's something they're already doing. We're enabling them to do it faster, at scale, or better in some way. But of course, there's so many other ways to use AI. And so the first thing we do whenever we talk to someone and they say, oh, I have this problem, can you solve this with AI, is to really hammer down what is the actual problem they're trying to solve. Is it they're just trying to throw AI or some buzzwords at something where it's not really a good fit, or is there really a project there? And so in that, we consider a few different types of ethics to worry about. One is they're collecting lots of different data typically. So what is that data? What does it include? Is there any personal information? If we are doing underwater cameras instead of counting fish, that's not too much of a concern. If it's something now on a boat and now you're looking at people, now you need to be careful of things like, do we blur out faces? Has everyone agreed to this data capture and collection? Do we need to have people sign a waiver or worry about that? And so there's ethics concerns on the data collection side. Then there is the use. So if we're going to provide a model that's then going to make decisions, then there needs to be some way to check that it is accurate or it is working properly. And so we wouldn't want to engage in a project where it's going to be something fully, completely automatic. No one's ever going to look at it. There's too many worries and concerns about those kinds of systems that have been put out to do things like evaluate job candidates or so on. And then there's worries about bias and risk in that. If we were to do such a project, then we'd have to do a full deep dive into each of these concerns, talk to the various different experts, and see what are those concerns and how can we mitigate those risks. So that's data collection, that is usage for the work that we're doing. And then there's just the ethics of, for our students, what are they getting out of this? We don't want to do projects where our students are just there, they're doing a bunch of grunt work, and they get nothing out of it themselves. There's an element of skills training, of learning, and it really being a good fit for our students and what they want to do in their future careers.
Yeah, we're very much governed by the research ethics at Dalhousie. You know, it's a U15 research institute, so there's pretty strong structures and constraints and sort of checks and balances. So we exist under those, and just to add, increasingly we're working with Indigenous communities, and there's all kinds of concerns there around traditional knowledge and respecting it and understanding the nature of it, and there isn't the greatest history with academia and Indigenous information, whether that's biological or cultural. So yeah, we're continually working on it and educating ourselves, and you know, we do have a lot of support around us to navigate ethical issues as well, whether it's professors at the Faculty of Computer Science who focus on ethical issues that we can bring in, or other members of the university community who support our work.
Yeah, like Faculty of Law or other Faculty of Management or other groups. One thing I should have said to make clear, we typically don't own any IP from our projects. So we're very much a service kind of organization. So the work that we deliver belongs to the companies. That also bypasses some of the common kinds of ethical concerns on that part of developing a system for someone in some way. We deliver a project, it goes back to them. And of course, the other one I should have mentioned, as I kind of alluded to before, is making sure they know what to do with it. They know what needs to be done. They know they can come back to us and ask questions, or make sure they have the right people in place to use those in the long term.
Gotcha. A lot of the things you were saying, like a lot of that could just be with any AI project, you know, like the ethical concerns. But there were some interesting like ocean nuances in there, especially with the Indigenous communities. Obviously, you know, they have a lot of history and a lot of involvement in the ocean space. So very interesting. Thank you. So what would you give as a piece of advice to anyone who's getting started in this business? Someone who's new to the ocean space, is there kind of like a tidbit of advice that you would give them from what you've seen to date?
Yeah, just know that there are so many different kinds of careers in this space. Something we often hear when we're at conferences talking about, what are the different career options, or how do we encourage people to come into the ocean sector and the ocean tech sector, is that students don't know there are these options. They think, oh, I'm going to go into computer science or even AI, and I can either do software development in a big monolithic company, or I can build a video game, and that's all I can do.
Right.
No, you can work in purpose-driven small companies here in Atlantic Canada, doing things like electrifying boats, or identifying underwater species, or improving fishing, or helping disease. And there's so many different roles for different skill sets. It can be on the technical side, it can be on the non-technical side, it can be on data labeling, it can be on just knowing a lot about different species and learning on the marine biology side. So many different ways that people can contribute to various different careers. It can be engineering, it can be building those sensors, it can be improving these systems and models, or making a better engine or a better propeller. And all of these can really contribute to the growth of the ocean sector as a whole.
Yeah, it's a great sector to be involved in. As
Yeah.
Chris said, a lot of people get involved because of a passion, because of just sort of a genuine interest in the marine space. So wide variety of roles, and they're generally just great people to work with in the sector. A lot of people driven by curiosity, a lot of engineers, a lot of really interesting people. So if you're looking for a career sector that might not have, consulting or big banks or some sort of, bigger profile in our society, I think in general the ocean sector is just a great, interesting group of people working on really big problems, and often doing work that's impact is outsized, given the number of people working on it in the organization. So it's a great sector to get involved in.
A lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
A lot of impact. Yeah.
Yeah, and doing things like project management that you might think, I need to be involved in some kind of manufacturing or something. But there's a lot of opportunity.
I love that. Well, I hope there are some students listening, or maybe some people looking for a career change. Because, I think that's such a big thing, is you don't know what you don't know, So it can be daunting to apply to university programs or apply for jobs because you're like, I don't even know how to put into words, or I don't know what's out there. So this has been, I think, a really great episode to show people what they can do.
Yeah, and people in the sector are really gracious. Like, they're really, it's, if you have questions, it's not the kind of industry or sector where people are like, oh, how, but like, the ocean's so vast and it's so complex that everybody has questions all the time. Right. So, physical oceanography versus robotics, like, people from both sides are going to have lots of questions about the other side if you're doing underwater drones.
Yeah, I love it. Is there anything else that you want to mention? Like, what's on the agenda for DeepSense? What's next? One last plug.
Oh gosh, it's a really exciting time for us. The hard work's really been done in figuring out the model and doing that tough innovation work. So we're in a great spot to scale, to potentially look at other industries or sectors besides the ocean space. It's really sort of an inflection point right now in DeepSense, which is good timing with the inflection point of AI in our society and deployment of AI. So, this very unique and innovative way of delivering, again, that expertise of academia, the talent and the student body to industry through this platform. And, there's opportunities in the private sector, in the public sector, in research. The model is really effective, proven, and can be applied almost anywhere. So it's going to be really exciting to see what happens with DeepSense over the next few years. And, there's so much need in society in general for something like this, and just something that's really effective at delivering AI into organizations. So it'll be really exciting, I think, to see what we become in the next few years, and hopefully, as we scale and increase the number of projects that we deliver, really sort of see that expand significantly. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's so much excitement and urgency coming from provincial and federal government to really use AI to better Atlantic Canada, to better Canada as a whole with these technologies. And so I think we're well positioned to contribute to that, and that's really where we're looking forward.
Well, I mean, I've seen how much DeepSense has changed over the last few years, so I can only imagine. I feel like you're on an accelerated path now. I can't wait to see what you get up to.
We're just trying to keep up with AI.
It's
doubling in capabilities every 6 to 8 months right now. So just trying to keep up.
We could have this same podcast 6 months from now, and it might be totally different. Who knows?
Could be. Yeah.
That's exciting. I love it. So thanks for coming. I learned a lot.
Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Whoever is listening also learned a lot, and really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks so much for having us.